Alright, it's splashing day, and I'd better get off the boat before I'm lifted with the crane. Alright, she's floating. I'm full lock to the right! And we're off! We are off the hard and back in the water. That's right, you don't hear anything. Yes, we are silent. Welcome to our self-inflicted adventure. I'm Kiara and this is Adam. A few years ago, we walked away from our life on land to pursue travel and adventure aboard our floating home, the Millennial Falcon.
Last year saw us improving ourselves and the boat whilst we tackled our first Atlantic circuit. Join us as we come full circle back to the Caribbean, where we'll commence preparations for our next big challenge. Previously on Sailing Millennial Falcon. And water was running down here and just pooling.
Today is the day, and I think I say this like at every great event in our boat life.
We're going to do the wet install of the compression post.
Finally, one job ticked off the list 5 weeks later. Alright, it's the great unveiling of the decks.
I must say this is happening. This is all going a lot quicker than I thought.
Look at our gorgeous new bowsprit!
What a malarkey that was.
New shaft, new bearings. It's as good as it's ever been.
Finally, after weeks of working on the boat, we'd gotten her back into a floatable condition. Most importantly, she had a propeller shaft, a working propeller, and a new coat of anti-foul on the hull. The last detail that we wanted to do while we were on the hard was to put her new name on.
Then at last, she was ready to splash. Alright, it's splashing day. The crane's literally coming towards us. And I'd better get off the boat before I'm lifted with the crane.
Yeah.
Alright, she's almost in.
It's better already, just being near the water. Too right.
She's floating. Alright, we've got to go check to see whether the sea cocks are leaking and the stocking box as well. We've got to tighten that one up. That's the general checks that Adam does when he goes back onto the boat.
Went into the engine room, I heard. Look at this stocking box and it's like... crank it on as hard as I possibly can.
Did you say I had everything ready to go?
You did. I know the first spanner I picked up was like, good girl.
With the torch next to it?
Yep. So hopefully that's all good.
The rub rail's still a bit beaten, but...
No, it's acceptable.
Yeah. Next was time for the mast to go back on. Before the mast could be stepped, we had to run the new mast wires through the compression post.
How many wires left, Adam's asking? Oh, that's all. That's everything.
Once the mast was back on, the standing rigging needed to be tightened. We would do a proper rig tune later. For now, we just needed the mast to stay put.
If you've been watching for a while, you'll have seen that we're advocates of the saying, everything that can be done on anchor should be done on anchor. For us, life is just sweeter when there's water to swim in around us, free rent, and since we're not paying for boat storage, we can finally take a day off.
However, when we put our new propeller shaft back in, we had to lift the engine. In the process, we destroyed an engine mount and ended up replacing 2 of them anyway. Because of this, and because our prop shaft was now not bent, our engine needed realignment, which has to be done in the water.
Since running an engine that hasn't been aligned is a pretty bad thing to do, we didn't have any propulsion when we splashed, so we opted to tie up on a nearby wall in the yard to work on this before we set off again. How we could get our boat to the nearby wall was another matter, and one that was solved by recruiting some help. We made some new and caught up with old friends while we were in the yard, who were immensely helpful, putting in days and even evenings to help us work on the boat. Once again, they came to the rescue, and we formed the Falcon flotilla to help us onto the wall.
I haven't aligned yet. We've got a new shaft, new mounts. I haven't done the alignment. Nothing. I don't want to run it until I have a chance to tweak it. That's why we've got all the things.
Alright, so I need to get this from you, don't I?
We had a 30 horsepower on the side propelling us, 2 dinghies at the front steering, me in the cockpit steering the boat, and what appears to be me again playing conductor. Who rides these things?
I'm full up to the right!
You get it. You get there were dinghies. You get it.
And yet with all these people helping, we still got stuck. And we're off! We are off the hard and back in the water. As you'll see, we kind of got a bit stuck over there. Well, I don't know if you could see that, because it was all a bit stressful for a moment there. There was just a really shallow patch, and somehow our boat managed to find it. And we got stuck there for probably about max a minute. We were just kind of going nowhere. But luckily the 30 horsepower just ploughed us right through it, and now we're here on against the wall. So we are off, we have splashed, we're back in the water. I really am looking forward to having just a day off, which would be awesome, but there is still a lot of work to do. We need to put all of our deck hardware back on, we need to put the boom back on, we need to put sails on, rigging. We still have like so much stuff to do. We're one step closer to it being finished, so I'm so excited. Really looking forward to it. We're gonna have a nice celebratory beer, and we're actually going to have a day off, have a few days off. I can't wait. Welcome back. We're just here on the water. We splashed quite a few days ago now, so I'm just going to update you on kind of a few things that we've been doing since we splashed. So I guess I'll do a bit of a deck run through, since most of the stuff that we've done has been on deck. Actually, I lied, there is also some stuff downstairs, but we'll do the deck first and then I'll go downstairs and kind of tell you what we've been doing there. Our anchor locker, we've put the hatch back on there, which is pretty good, and made sure that when we do go back out to anchor, everything's working. We had a little issue with our windlass. On the day that we thought that we were going to be going back into the water, umming and ahhing about whether to go to anchor or whether to go on the wall, and our windlass had stopped working, and we're like, oh, you're kidding us, what's going on? Turns out we just didn't put a plug in properly. So anyway, that's fixed. Nice easy win there. We've also mostly put our deck hardware on, which is really cool. So it's looking properly like a sailboat, and we replaced a lot of the old, like really old stand-up blocks. We also put some more deck organisers on the deck as well to allow more halyards and lines to go through into the cockpit, which is pretty cool. We also put the boom on and the sail as well. I made a few kind of minor adjustments to the sail bag, which you're not going to know, which is really annoying. For us to put our Genoa back on, we need to do the rigging first. Adam actually is in the process of doing that. Anyway, downstairs in the boat, we did a major clean-up, which you'll come downstairs and you'll be like, really, that's your clean? And it has gotten messy since we did the clean-up, but pretty much we made our boat into a more livable space, because it had just been looking like a building site, to be honest. I mean, like 3 months on the hard as a building site of course it was going to look like a building site. Okay, we have down here, it's mainly in the engine bay to be honest, because that's the stuff that has been stopping us from going. I got in there and I realigned the engine, which is awesome, and I think it's actually the best alignment that we've done so far. So we're waiting on a torque wrench for our Sigma drive. So at the moment we still can't use the propulsion or the engine, and a new alternator is coming in as well, because I don't know if you recall, but we had an issue with something to do with the alternator system. We've had that on bench tested and that's broken on us again, and so we need to get a new one of them. So we still do have quite a few things that we're waiting on, and quite a few things that mean that we can't just leave yet, but we are getting there. We are definitely getting there. Oh, we also ran all the cables from the mast back into the various places where they should go, and we now have some new to us instruments as well. Well, Ryan and Sophie, they have their own sailing channel. They got given some Raymarine instruments, accessories, all kinds of Raymarine stuff. And so after they finished installing them, they gave us a hand-me-down set of instruments, wind and depth gauges. So we've now installed them. So we had a depth gauge that always had a sun damaged screen. So we could never entirely know what the depth was. We were pretty certain, if you like really looked up closely you could see, but it was always a bit like, ooh, is that 15 feet or is that just 5 feet? So it's really good. We've now replaced them with one gen up from that. As do we have I-50s or I-60s before? Oh, okay. So we had I-60s, and we think, and these are now I-60 plus, but mainly the screen is just better, so this will be really good to actually use when we're underway. And we've checked all of our instruments, and all of our instruments are working correctly, everything's fine. So that was another one of the, you know, like when you mess with too many things you think, oh goodness, it's never gonna just work as it should it? But pretty much it did, which is really, really awesome. Hello!
Hello!
I'm just saying that you're doing the rigging, and I don't know whether you're in the background of my videos. What you doing?
I am
the rigging.
I don't think it found its way into the video, but we actually got a new backstay because the previous backstay was, I won't say too short, but it was right on the line. This boat balances really well when the mast is sort of perfectly in column. It doesn't need a lot, if any, rake, so you sort of want it as close to straight up and down as you can manage. And you may remember back to a previous episode last time we were tuning the rig, we got it pretty close. We had like a kettlebell here checking the rake angle, and we managed to move it forward. But in order to do that, we had to slacken the backstay right off, and we sort of ran out of road, if you will. Long story short, got a new backstay. And now we have all this room to adjust the rake. So we've redone it, got it quite good actually. I'm quite happy with how it is. The only going for a sail will really tell. And now I'm just doing the stays port and starboard to sort of get it straight again, and I've got it all marked, but I suspect that last time it maybe was a little bit too tight, so I'm sort of trying to creep up on it. You know, I'm putting a couple of turns here and there and then checking it, and then I'm just creeping up on it. I've got the top caps equal, and now I'm sort of doing the lowers to keep the sort of the lower spreaders in column, and that's the real challenge of doing the rigging, I think, is getting the lower spreaders, keeping the lower spreaders under the top spreaders without sort of dragging it forward or moving it backwards or inducing odd curves and bows in the mast. You know, you use your halyard to get the top caps, sort of the mast straight, and that's easy because you have the tow rail, so you just equidistant halyard from the top to the tow rail on each side, same spot. If it's equidistant, well then obviously the mast is straight up and down. What's hard is the lower spreaders, or the lower stays, which go to the lower spreaders, because that you have to sort of use your mast track as like a gun sight, and it is very much a subjective thing. You were looking at it going, oh, it could be a little bit to port, a little bit to starboard, a little bit forward, a little bit backwards. And you do have a lot of adjustment. A small turn here can make quite a significant change up there, so that's where all the fiddling comes in, which is what I'm doing now.
Hey Ads, do you hear that?
I did not hear that.
That's right, you don't hear anything, because The mast now does not have a clash and the clang of a radar wire in there. Yes, we are silent. And I'm aware that I just had to go around and tighten up some of the halyards so they didn't clang when I was saying that. But look, we are a quiet boat. We can officially go into marinas and not be embarrassed about it. About the noise that we make in the marinas.
We'll still be woefully embarrassed about the manoeuvring and the general malarkey that comes with us going into marinas.
That does not mean that we are going to go into marinas intentionally in order to show off the fact that we don't have any clanging noise, but it's really, really good to know that if we have to, we won't be embarrassing ourselves and people won't come over to our boat asking us to be quieter, which has happened in the past. Yeah, so I'm getting there. It's good.